Alright, guitar class. I don't know if I told you this or not, but I've been dreading this lesson because it's some pretty dense stuff. And I actually just finished making a recording, went back to listen to it, thought I did a pretty good job, and it didn't record my voice. So we are going to try this again. Maybe, on the bright side, my second time through will be a little bit clearer. Our goal over the next couple of class periods is to create and play a major scale. So what I'd like to do is have you start out by actually practicing a couple of major scales. Here is an E major scale. It starts and it ends on E. And just for ease, I have you repeating each note 2 times. So why don't we play this together? I'd like you to follow along. You can just follow my pointing cursor here. We are on the string closest to your kneecaps. And we're going to start with 0 and just follow all the way up the neck of the guitar towards the sound hole with these numbers. All right, 1, 2, ready, play. 0, 0, 2, 2, 4, 4, 5, 5, 7, 7, 9, 9, 11, 11, 12, 12. If you weren't very good at that, go back on the video and play it again. Or pause the video and practice it at your own speed. If you were really good at that, you just finished playing an E major scale. E, F sharp, G sharp, A, B, C sharp, D sharp, and E. A couple things I want to point out. You always start and end on the same note. And you will play every single letter of the alphabet. We just happen to be starting on E. E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E. Now some of these notes have this funky hash sign in front of it, and we're going to talk about that in a little bit. But before we do, let's practice this one. It's an A major scale. Notice again we're starting and ending on A. Alright, let's try this. 1, 2, ready. Oh, sorry. 5th string. Eddie, 8. 1, 2, ready, play. 0, 0, 2, 2, 4, 4, 5, 5, 7, 7, 9, 9, 11, 11, 12, 12. Now the great thing about the guitar is now that you know these numbers, did you notice these numbers were the exact same as these numbers here? But they're just on a different string. These are the intervals you follow as a guitar player to play a major scale. So you could play that major scale here on the A string. You could play it on the low E string. You could play a B major scale by going 0, 2, 4, 5, 7, 9, 11, 12. All right, but what happens when we get to a C scale? There's no C string. Now C scale's great. Notice there's no sharps or flats. And that's because, well, because the C scale happens to naturally follow the pattern that we've established for major scales. But wait, there's probably several of you sitting there going, oh, Mrs. Ollinger, I know that my elementary school teachers taught me the notes on the staff, but this to me just looks like a bunch of jumbled jibber jabber. It just looks like a bunch of dots thrown on lines. Here's what I want you to do. Instead of moving on in the video, you're going to go to the back counter, and there's nothing wrong with this. You're going to go to the back counter, and you're going to get these 3 worksheets, and you must do them in this order. Okay? It's like math class. You can't learn to divide until you learn how to add and subtract. There's a methodology, an order to it. Alright, so you want to start with the staff, treble, clef. Once you get through that worksheet, reviewing the notes on the lines and spaces, you want to get to something called treble, clef, ledger lines. And these are important. These are these lines that are going through or under supporting the notes above the staff and below the staff. And really what it does is it just extends these 5 lines here, but you got to know this stuff. And then you want to end on sharps and flats. These are words you need to be familiar with in order to build major scales. So if that's where you're at, you're confused already, stop the video, go get these 3 worksheets, and then pick the video up when you're finished. Alright, but for those of you who are like Mrs. Ollinger, I'm in band, orchestra, chorus, I play piano, I have a really good understanding of the notes on the lines and spaces of the treble clef, then let's move on. Alright, we're going to start with that C major scale, because C scale is the easiest one, because there are no sharps and flats. There are no hashtags and these little squashed B's. A sharp says you're going to play a half step higher, 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 higher. That's higher. All right, and flats lower the note. I like to use the piano because to me it's very visual, and I'm going to show you how you can do this on your guitar. But I have pianos in the back, paper pianos for you to look at. But this is what we are going to want to focus our attention to right here. All right, this is the formula for building a major scale. The W, let me see, yeah, the W here stands for a whole step. A whole step means you go up the neck of your guitar 2 frets or you go 2 keys. So W is whole, then H stands for the half. So that's just 1 fret, that's a half step. So whole equals 2, half equals 1. So knowing that, let's go back here. I already told you that if you're going to play a scale, you start and end on that note. So I want to play a C scale. We're going to start on C. We're going to end on C. If we go a whole step higher, that means we want to go 2 steps up. So you start on C, you go 1, 2. You end on a D. D is a white note. So therefore, you don't add a sharp or a flat. Now we want to talk about this interval. From F to G, are we going to need to, from D to E, are we going to need to sharpen or flatten that E? This is what this formula is going to help us figure out. It's a whole step. So we go from D, 1, 2, and we end on E. E is a white key, no sharps or flats. The interval from E to F, we have to figure out sharp or flat. Well, you're going to do that by now going a half step or 1 key to the right. 1. Remember I said the C scale is the easiest because it's all white keys. Figuring out F to G, you count 1, 2, you get G. A to B, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1. I used to make my students, many years ago, do a dance to this formula. That's right. I used to make them stand up, and we had to dance to whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half, whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half, whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half, whole, whole, half. Okay, I'll stop right there. But that's the formula that you need to know. You will need to know this for a test or quiz. So C is kind of easy, but what happens when we want it to be D? C is the only scale that doesn't have any sharps or flats, so I can guarantee you right now D has sharps or flats. Now, if you'd rather, instead of using the piano and counting keys, you can go down to and find a piece of paper on the back counter that looks like this. And D's great because right here it's one of the strings. So if we want to go whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half, we play open string D. Then for the whole step, we want to go 2 steps over towards the sound hole, 2 frets. 1, 2, and you play a regular E. Whole, whole, half. 1, 2 is whole. Another whole step, 1, 2. Now we're at F sharp. So if I go back here, whole step, 1, 2, it's a white key. I leave the E alone. I got to figure out if this F is supposed to be sharp or flat. All right, so I go now another whole step. Remember, whole is 2. 1, 2. Now I have the option of calling it an F sharp or a G flat, but I already know it's supposed to be some sort of F. All right, so what we do then is we add the sharp sign in front of the F. Whole step, whole step. Now from F sharp is telling us to go a half step, so we're going to figure out, are we playing a G sharp here, or are we going to play a regular G? Half is 1, so from F sharp, 1 step. G is a white key, therefore it remains the same. Whole step. We got to figure out if A should be sharp or flat. Whole step, 1, 2, A. Stays the same. What about B? Whole step, 1, 2. B is a white key, stays the same. What about C? What are we going to do with C? Well, it's another whole step. 1, 2. C sharp. So we add the C then. It's getting a little messy here. We add the C then in front of. And we know we already end on D, so you could just stop right there. If the piano keyboard doesn't help you, then remember, go back here. Whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. Whole step, half step. Whole step, whole step. Whole step, half step. Whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. Whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. Now, here's the challenge. Get this piece of paper from the back counter, and I want you to create a G major scale. The great thing about G, if you like looking at the neck of the guitar, you can use this thing because there's a G string. Alright? If you'd rather use the piano, that's fine. Just know that if we start on G, we end on G. Alright? And you have to figure out what sharps or flats go there, and then write it down on tab. Alright? And that's where I'm going to end today. It's a lot of stuff. I get it. It's some heady, heady stuff. Alright? Think about how much stronger we are and smarter because of this, and what better guitar players we will become.